Hey everyone, this is me, the Undead Viking, and this is the rulebook for Savage Planet, The Fate of Fantos. This is a fantastic game, and I'm going to talk to you about it in just a second, but I'm going to tell you a quick little story, and I apologize for this, but this is too cool. So, when I got my job at TMG, it was one of those things where eventually I needed to get, I left a place that gave me benefits or whatever, and so now I had to like kind of search for my own life insurance. I was getting health insurance through my wife and her job, but I had to go and get my own life insurance, right? So I kind of shopped around, I looked around, I found the place I want to go with, and they said, hey, cool, you need to go and get this physical done. I was like, that's cool, let's go. So I was actually wearing this shirt as I went to go to my physical. And this nice young lady that I got there with, who was kind enough to take my blood and urine, saw it, and she was like, oh, do you play Dungeons & Dragons? And I was like, yeah, I play Dungeons & Dragons. She's like, oh, cool, I just moved to town. I was like, oh, cool, it's like, have you gone to, like, the local game store? And no, I haven't. We had a wonderful conversation about games and what have you. And in the conversation, she happened to mention, oh, like where I came from, I was friends with these guys, and they had their own like board game company. I was like, no way, really? That's cool. What have they made? And she was like, oh, they've made this game, that game, whatever. And I like kind of looked up on my phone on Board Game Geek and kind of looked up the games, and I'd like, oh, these look really cool. And then one of the games that I saw was this cool looking art of this Savage Planet, The Fate of Fantos. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I was like, kind of looked, it just has this crazy, Gamma World-esque, like, old school role-playing game kind of look to it. And she was like, yeah, and pretty neat, huh? And I was like, yeah, okay, so whatever. And the next day, and this is not like her contacting that person or anything like that. The next day, the guy she was talking about, this guy named Travis, contacted me and said, hey, do you want to review this game? I was like, the world's crazy, right? As big as it gets, the smaller it gets, right? Crazy little combination if she had, whatever. Cool story, right? Anyway, so this is Savage Planet. And Savage Planet is an awesome game. It is so much fun. It is like a game where you're going to be recruiting, you're like this city-state, right, on this planet that's dying. And you are going to recruit all these people to fight for you. And not just like warriors. You're getting like, astronomers and cooks and, all these like crazy people. Like, here, there's this big giant deck of all these people, vintners, this guy named Herzog, a vizier, an apiarist, so there's all these crazy different things, and they're going to be working for you and trying to make sure that you collect the most of these beautiful little crystals, which are the money of the game, because you're mining the planet for that power, and whoever manages to get the most of that before the game is over is the winner. But let me show you how the game is played, and we'll come back here and I'll tell you why it is fantastic. Alright, let's learn how to play Savage Planet. So I've gone ahead and set up the game. What you're seeing in front of you is the 3 different decks of cards you're going to be using, and plus each person is going to get one of these player boards. Also, the resources are these blue crystals that are over here. You start with 30 of those, and as the game progresses, you'll be using those for lots of different actions. Mostly what you're going to be doing with them is you're going to be using them to hire these people out here. These are your, well, terminology is important in this game. So this player board, that's your citadel. That's kind of like the city-state that you represent. So then you have these people here, and these are your legacies. These are like basically workers that you've hired, important people that are within your city-state that are going to be doing different jobs for you. There's 2 other decks of cards here. This is the labor deck, and this is the trials deck. The labor deck is cards that you're going to have in your hand that you are going to have your legacies play. And basically, they're going to take those actions that are on those cards. I'll show that to you in just a little bit. The next thing is the trials deck is as you are mining the Fantos planet of its precious resources, you will be forced to draw these cards. And somewhere at the bottom of the deck, and I'm going to search and find it, you put it, you shuffle this up, and then in the last 5 cards you put this card, which is, this Zadraz. And when Zadraz shows up, basically that signals the end of the game. and whoever has the most wealth, most resources, will win at that point. So that's kind of an interesting thing. You're gonna be up against all the other players doing all these sorts of things, as far as, you know, warring with them, negotiating with them, playing sneaky tricks on them, those sorts of things. And all of those things cost these resources. So you're going to have this ebb and flow to your victory points, basically. But when you get towards close to the end, you got to make sure that you're in the lead with those. But all right, so let me just explain. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go through this process of hiring your legacies. As I said, you start with 30 of these resource coins, gems, whatever you want to call them, crystals, and you determine the first player, however you randomly want to do that. And then the rules state that you roll this Fantos die, and the first person to roll a 3 on it, because there's 1, 2, and 3, gets to be the person, but you know, you can use whatever way you want to. And then you just pick one, and then you pay the cost to hire them. So let me just grab these mercenaries here. So the mercenaries, the cost to hire them is this number over here. It says 2. And these are the 3 stats, and all of them have these stats. And they are harvesting, war, and tribute. So the mercenaries are really good at war, but not so great at the other 2 things. And their special ability here, which this symbol right here means that it's something that is used in like the Fantos phase of the game. And once again, terminology is a big thing in this game, but once you play the game, you'll grasp that. But basically, when a player takes an action, they're going to be choosing one of 3 actions, and I'll go through those actions here in just a bit. But this, and then there's secondary actions after that. This would be in the first part of a turn, so the first action basically. And so this would say add 1 war total, which is that total, to your war score during a war. All right, so this up here is the race of the creature, and that will come into effect with different abilities and different effects. So sometimes you will see that it'll reference this symbol, and then it'll affect cards of that type. So that's why that's on there as well. When you hire this, so if we picked this one, we'd put that as part of our starting tableau, and then we're going to take, and these would come out of our because our Citadel would have our 30 crystals on it, and then we take and we put 2 crystals on there just to kind of show that that is their power, that is their ability to play cards and do things. So, and then as soon as you do that, you immediately replace it with another card, and so then we're going to put that navigator down there. So, and then the next person goes and they do the same thing, next person goes, and so on and so forth. You're going to do this around the table until you get 3. So I'm just going to grab a couple here, and I'm just going to put them on here. So we got the cook and the astrologers. We're just going to put them on there. And the astrologers get 4, and the cook gets 1. So, and these are also kind of their hit points. If any of your legacies ever run out of these crystals that are on there, they are immediately discarded. They are, presumably killed or executed or banished or whatever you want to call it. But once again, remember, as these are taken, you're going to refill the empty spots that are on the board. All right, so once you have those 3, you will randomly get also one of these Citadels. Here, I like this one just because I love this giant face mountain thing or whatever. And these have little special powers as well. So, and also very handily, they put all of the information on there as Fantos action, secondary action, instant, because there's 3 different types of cards. So it'll have, receive 1 crystal from the trove. That's the trove. Receive 1 crystal from the trove when a trial card is discarded. As trials get revealed up here, you can only have 3 at any one time. So if there's ever 3 and you're supposed to draw 1, you will be forced to discard one of those. All right, so you just place that down there, and then you'd have, I'm not going to count these out, but you'd have your Citadel treasure or whatever on here that you still have left, and you're just going to have that to play the game. All right, then each person's going to get 5 of these labor cards. 1, 2, 3. Oh, grab 5 perfectly. Awesome. And then these are the different actions, as I said. And so, here, pilgrimage would cost 1 crystal to use. It's an instant, and use another Citadel's ability as your own for a single action. You know, pretty straightforward. You know, the Citadel ability, you want to use somebody else's ability, you could do that. The Intrigue costs 1. Give any legacy, that's a legacy icon right there. Remember, terminology and icons, this is a game that you know, relies on them a little bit, but they will become second nature as you play the game. Give them +1 to their tribute. Remember, there's like the tribute is the third ability on there. Give them +1 to their tribute for that turn. For, you know, and so you give them that little extra ability because that's what the Intrigue does. So here, this is a Fantos action, you know, the time of peace. So cancel a war at any time. So that you can use that to cancel a war. It's kind of expensive, costs 4, but you can do it. I should mention that since you are actually spending the crystals or whatever that are on your legacies to use these abilities, you can't ever spend all of their crystals. Because remember, losing all their crystals actually like kills them or makes them be discarded. So you can't willfully, you know, use all the crystals on a particular legacy to do it. Nor can you combine 2 legacies crystals together to perform an action. You have to you have to basically like have enough on there and still have something left over for it to work. So there, and then hunting party. So like for 4, you can double your harvest score. So, you know, just kind of cool stuff like that. You know, it's just basic ways that these will break the rules of the game in some way. And you've played games most likely with cards like that. So that's your hand. And your hand remains your information and nobody else's until you actually play those cards. All right. So how do you play? So after you get everything set up, you're going to, the first thing you do is, and if, you know, like when you task something to do something, you're going to turn your legacy like that, and when you untask them, you go like that. Now, tasking and untasking, if you've played these card games where you end up fighting people, if you have people that are tasked and you get attacked, you're unable to defend yourself. So, you know, it's always a good idea not to task all of your legacies, you know, with your action. But so at the beginning of your turn, if it isn't the first turn of the game, you will untask all of the legacies that you have tasked at that time. So they're up and they're ready to be used. And if you have less than 5 cards in your hand, you will draw labors back up to 5 cards in your hand at that time. And then you'll pick your Fantos action. Now the Fantos action is either Harvest, War, or Tribute, and you get to pick one and only one of them, and you can't, like, so you get one action. Now I'm going to go through all 3 of these, but just remember that just because it's your action, some of these will actually allow other players to kind of join in, especially with the War and Tribute. And also, players are able to play, if they have labors and they have legacies out there, they can play and do things to you to, like, kind of affect what your plans are and what your process is. So you always have to be kind of present as far as what everybody else is doing. And that kind of leads me to, you're going to lead me to speak about the negotiation aspect of the game, but I'll get to that in just a moment. So harvesting is pretty easy. Basically, it's getting more coins, more resources, more crystals from the trove. And those will go directly to your citadel. Now, you can't move your crystals normally out to your legacies out here, or your workers, basically. You can't move them out unless you have a card, and there's the cards that allow you to do that, or actions and abilities that allow you to move those out. But you can get eliminated from the game. If you ever were to run out of these crystals, you would be out. Like, you had no crystals at all in your citadel, you're done, you're out of the game. So you're going to need those crystals for, like, basically to win the game, right? So if you're going to do a harvest action, what you're going to do is you're going to, like, you choose whichever of your legacies that you wish to have, you know, do that action. You play any cards you might have that would assist with that action. You know, once again, you use these cards, you play them. You know, remember, like, where was it? The hunting party card. Like, so if you played that, you could double your harvest score with that. So, and the harvest action is kind of the only one that you really do by yourself. Other people can affect it in ways, but you'll do it. And so you just task whatever it is. So, like, let's say you sent the cook out to harvest. He has a 1 harvest ability here. And, so he has that. And he does have, like, an ability, it's admittedly a secondary ability, but it says you can task him to transfer one crystal from your Citadel to some or all, some or all of your legacies. That's one of those ways you get the crystals off there so you can replenish them. So you're going to go ahead and, like, if you're going to take him and you're going to have him go out to harvest, he's worth 1 right now, and you can send all 3 of them if you want to. You can send them all out, and they would all go out, to harvest the crystals, and then you're going to roll the die for each one that you send out. So if we just sent 1 out, we'd be getting 1, because that's his ability, and then we roll this, I get a 2, that'd be 3. And if I had done Hunting Party before, like I'd played this labor card, paid the crystals to do it, I would like have a total of 6. So I'd count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that is like the harvest action. But when you do a harvest action, you are going to cause a trial to show up. And you're going to cause multiple trials to show up, depending upon what you chose to do. Normally, you will draw 1 trials card for every legacy that you sent out to harvest. However, there can be certain things that will affect that as far as cards being played and what have you. I should mention that on the very first turn of the game, if the first player doesn't do a harvest, you're going to draw 1 regardless. So you're going to have a trial out there, but you don't double up. So we did harvest first turn, so we're going to draw 1 of these trial cards, we're going to turn it over, we're going to have it. So this is a vote, and the vote says Citadels roll the crystal die here. Roll the crystal 1 extra time during a harvest. Citadels draw 1 extra trials card for performing the extra roll. Let the voting commence. So now everybody at the table will talk, and they'll discuss one way or the other whether they think they want to enact this particular thing. It's a majority rule. So if you have 4 people playing, you have to have 3 that vote yes. A tie, 2 versus 2, it won't pass. So if everybody at the table agrees, okay, bam, we're going to keep it out there, and now that's going to exist. Now, it could get discarded later, but right now, this overtime ability exists and it's out there. Now remember, the more cards you go through with this trials deck, the quicker you're going to cause the end of the game. And so you're going to, if you get to roll an extra die when you do your harvest, so if we had that card out when we took our harvest action right there, we would have had that option of rolling another die, but we didn't know that was happening or what have you. Now I'm just going to draw. Hopefully I can show you some of the other. Okay, so perfect. So this is like a calamity type of thing, or something that's going to affect. This isn't going to be voted on. So here it says a terrible fever strain plagues the citizens of Fantos. All tapped legacies lose 1 crystal at the end of their Citadel's turn. And so this would be something that goes into effect and then would be gotten rid of when, like one would take the place of this. Like, so you'd be drawing more of those trials cards and then you'd have to get rid of them. Now, the way it gets decided which one goes, it isn't like the length of time it's been in existence. It actually will be the person who is like either the tribute bearer, or if you don't have a tribute bearer available, then you will have just whoever drew the card. So if there were 3 cards out here and I drew 1 and there wasn't a tribute bearer, I'd pick which one I'd get rid of, and I would discard 1 and then place the new one down. Now you might be saying, well, what's the tribute bearer? Well, the tribute bearer is something that is determined when you take the tribute action with the Fantos action on your turn, but I'm not going to do that right now because that's the 3rd action. I'm going to use, we're going to talk about the war action now. So a war action is just a lot like a harvest action in which you're going to task some of your legacies or all of your legacies or whichever legacies you want to take the war action. Now, it is important to note that unless you have some ability or some other card that changes this, you can only go to war against the person that is sitting to your left. So just always remember that's the person you'll be warring with. So, and normally the person to your right is going to be warring with you. So you can kind of keep your eye on who's going to be messing with you. So war action is exactly the same. You will pick one of your legacies to task, in which case we task our mercenaries probably because they have a war of 2, and then Remember, and then this one has the ability of adding 1 to their war score during a war as well. So you have different options available to you. You don't have to do just that one. You can task others to go ahead and help with the war as well. But remember, the ones with the war score are going to do better for you. The person that's being attacked then has the option of tasking any untasked legacies that they have to defend themselves. They don't have to if they don't want to, but they have that option. Then it's a simple matter of tabulating the war score of all the legacies that are on each side, and then each person gets to roll the die once for each legacy that is fighting. So if we use the astrologers, even though they have a war of 0, and these have war of 2, we'd still get to roll a die because they're fighting. If the citadel that's being attacked chooses not to defend or can't because maybe they're all tasked, they still get to roll the die once to mitigate the damage. Once the damage is assigned, what happens is that, so say I attacked with these 2, and so I got 2 total. I'm going to roll 3 and then roll again here, so 6. I'd have a 6. And then say the person defended with a total of 4. That would be a difference of 2. So those 2 points of damage would have to be given to me as tribute that is, that comes off of the legacies. And they can divvy up that damage whoever was defending. And admittedly, if I attack somebody and they get a better score, say I got a 4 and they got a 6, and I tasked both of these to be part of it, I would have to remove crystals, 2 crystals, and give those up as tribute because of the fact that I lost. If you ever reduce any of these down to 0, they are killed in the war and you have to discard them. If the citadel that's being attacked chooses not to defend, then the crystals will come out of their store. If the citadel, I attacked with this one and just the mercenaries, and I took 4 damage somehow, I'd have to take these 2 off of here, I'd have to discard the mercenaries, and then I'd have to take 2 off of my citadel as well. So the damage will float downwards, if you will, and it will be affected as the game goes on. So that is, and mind you, when you do a war action, other people that are at the table can do things to affect it. They can take actions, they can take powers, they can do things that will embolden the defender or the attacker, and that's where the negotiation aspect of it will come in. Alright, so now the tribute action. So this is the last one. Now the tribute action is an attempt to basically get one of your legacies to impress upon the rest of the world that they are paying the most and the greatest tribute, and so that they're the most powerful one of us. Now, as before, you remember at Harvest we could use multiple legacies, War we could use multiple legacies. You're going to be picking one of your legacies to go ahead and do the tribute action. Now, the interesting thing about the tribute is that everybody at the table gets to pick, if they want to, one of their legacies that is untasked and have them go through the tribute process. And so, you can see, our astrologers here have a 3, so that's a pretty good score for the tribute process. And so then we'd most likely, if we're going to do a tribute action, we'd select them to be our legacy for that action. We don't have to, but that would probably be the wisest decision in the situation. As before, if you have any other abilities or cards in your hand or anything that would affect that, remember, we have our intrigue card that we talked about earlier. We could have that. We can give by using it, we could give our one of our legacies +1 into their cup here, their tribute total. We can use those abilities, and the other players can as well. After everybody's done, what you'll do is, once again, you will take the die, and each person will roll that, and you have to get the top score. After doing so, you give them a trophy. In this case, I have my little Dargan meeple here, and I'm just going to go ahead and place that if they won. And whatever they got as their scores, so let's say we used that card, so we had a 4, and we rolled, and we got a 5, and we won. We could then demand tribute from anybody else at the table of 5 crystals. Then they'd have to give that to us, and they would come out of their citadel pile, not from any of their legacies. And so we demand that tribute, and we get that. So obviously winning this is a big deal, because not only do you get the reigning tribute, but you also are able to get a prize for doing so. Now, when you have the reigning tribute, you have like certain powers that are awesome. Frankly. So when a card is required to be drawn from the Trials deck, if you have the token, then you can, and then there are already like 3 of these in play, then you get to decide which one is discarded. No matter whose turn it is, you decide which one is discarded in that case. If there's ever a tie due to a diplomacy event, you get to be the official tiebreaker because of the fact that you have the reigning tribute. And if we choose to go to war and we have the token, we can choose to go to war with anybody at the table, not just the person to our left. And so that's like that also added bonus of that. All right, so that is the Fantos phase. And that's like the first phase of your turn. So the next, and then you would do the Trials phase normally after the first phase, but you only do that if you did a harvest action or it's the first turn of the game and the first player didn't do a harvest action. So, but just remember that. So then, if you do the Trials section, you do the Trials, then you do the secondary actions phase. And that's when you're going to be playing any of your cards that have the secondary actions logo on them. Like our cook here, has the ability to transfer his crystals. There are labor cards. Let me grab one here, and actually I'm looking for one in particular that you can use that are used in that phase. Of course, now I have to find one. But here, here's that logo again, like misdirection. Citadels discard 1 crystal from each legacy. Your Citadel is not affected by the Fool. So pretty good ability of making people get rid of those. And I'm looking, of course, now I can't find one, but I'm looking for a duel card. Right there on the bottom. So a duel card is, once again, in the secondary. It doesn't cost anything to do. And then you can use this to have any of your legacies challenge another legacy to a duel. And basically what this does is it's kind of like just an attack. You're trying to kill somebody's legacy. Maybe you're really annoyed by their power and their ability or what have you. And so you declare this and you go through the process of having the duel. And then, but unlike a war, because it's handled just like a war is done, but unlike a war, any excess damage or anything doesn't filter down to your Citadel. It can only affect the legacy that's in battle. And actually, I want to find one cool legacy that has a really neat ability, the Executioner. Because the Executioner is actually pretty good. And his whole goal, I think, in the game is to do the duels. Because when an Executioner duels, loser of the duel is discarded. So if you can go into a duel with the Executioner, even if you don't get rid of all of their crystals, you actually kill that guy off, and they have to discard them anyway. All right, so that is the secondary portion of the game. The last thing you'll do is a hiring phase. And then the active Citadel, and only the person that's taking the turn, has the ability to choose one of the legacies that are available and pay to hire them. And just like the very beginning when we chose our first 3, same exact thing. If we decided that we really wanted this Arbalaster, we would pay the 3 crystals to have it, and then put that down in our tableau, and then add those 3 crystals to it. So we would have that as a card that we would have later on in the game. We could use it on our next turn. And they do come into play untasked. So if you do that, then you kind of you make sure you have something that can defend you, or you can take an action before the gameplay gets back to you. The last thing you do is that during this, the discard and any trial effects activate. If you have labor cards in your hand that you just can't use, like maybe they don't work for you, you can discard them and get rid of all of them if you want. Doesn't matter. Remember, you don't get to draw any though until the beginning of your next turn. And then if there's any of the trials cards would affect you at the end of the turn, you go ahead and take care of those. So remember this. This plague, which would cause us to lose a crystal. So there's those things that would affect you as well. And then the next person just goes, and then you continue around the table until you eventually get to the Zadraz card, and then add up, this signals the end. There's no final turn or anything like that. Add up all of your crystals. That's crystals that are on your home like your Citadel card, and also any on your legacy cards. Whoever has the most will win the game and becomes the new Lord of Fantos. Man, I can't say enough about how much I really like this game. You know, I'm a big fan of this type of game. The art is fantastic. This world, this savage world of Fantos, this whole like genre or whatever. I want to know more about this world. I want to know more about like the heroes and these citadels and all these powers. I mean, it sounds like it should be some sort of like Gamma World role-playing game, which, you know, man, I hope it is. But you know, it's one of those things where it's kind of like this really good combination of, you know, I don't want to say exactly like the Villagers of Larian, you know, like that kind of game where you're hiring people and putting them in front of you so they do things for you. But you're combining it with some cosmic encounter with all the negotiation that's going on, because the players are encouraged to just talk about anything and everything. Hey, help me out here, I'll do this. Help me out there, I'll do that. And, you know, and then just add in a lot of confrontation, a lot of just like, you have to crawl over other players to win. I mean, you can't win just by like cultivating a garden here. You need to go out and take the other people down and crawl over their corpses to claim the victory. So, I mean, everything about it is a game that just screams, I was going to love it, and I knew I was going to love it, and I did. So, but let me talk more about that in my final thoughts. Alright, thanks for learning how to play the game. I hope that seemed pretty simple for you. Now, I mean, as I mentioned, the terminologies, you know, what's a citadel, you know, what's a legacy, you know, whatever, you know, that will take a play to get used to, as well as the iconography. But it isn't just iconography, right? There's some words there, so you can kind of suss it out. And plus, like I said, all the player boards have the iconography on there, so it's pretty easy to, like, you know, suss it out and like, you know, grok it, you know, after a play, or even halfway through your first play. Now, I already kind of went over why I really liked it, but I mean, it really has everything that I'm looking for in a game like this. It has a fantastic theme. It has a great narrative, you know, as far as like the planet and all the crazy things that are going on this planet and all these warring factions and whatever. You know, it has like this wonderful conflict and negotiation. I love games with negotiation. I love being able to talk to other people at the table and saying, hey, will you help me out with this, and I'll help you out with that. You know, we gotta stop this guy. Hey, I'm not the one that you need to be worried about. I mean, all that process, it's like that game beyond the game that really makes the game speak to me, and it makes it a lot of fun. You know, it didn't have any negatives. I mean, like, I want to find out what this world is. Like, I want to have, like, some traveler RPG, you know, and have this planet in it. I want to play, like, Gamma World on this system. You know, I want to know more about this stuff. And like I said, I'm an old school gamer. I'm an old school role player. You know, so having this art that just felt like that. You know, also, you know, felt a lot like a lot of the like old school like comics I used to read as well. You know, so and I gotta think that was kind of like the genre or the feel that they were going for. You know, it's just a game that like there is. Every single turn you take, it's going to be affecting somebody else at the table. Even if you're doing a harvest, which is like, you're not warring with somebody, you're not giving a big tribute or anything like that. Even if you're doing a harvest, I mean, you're doing something that hurts the other players. You're making more trial cards show up that could hurt or help other people. You're forcing the end of the game to come closer. It has that wonderful thing where you're using your victory points. You need these to win, but you're spending them as the game goes on. And I love games like that, where you have to face that decision. Is it worth right now for me to spend 10 victory points to get this to work? Is it going to pay off in dividends later? That sort of thing. So, you know, from top to bottom, the game just fit me and my game group perfectly, and we had an absolute blast playing it. So I highly recommend Savage Planet, The Fate of Fantos. If you have any questions about it, please ask away. I'd be happy to answer those as best as I can. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video, and until next time, I'm the Undead Viking, and I'm telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day.